Hi guys and welcome to TechteamGB. If you haven't seen some of my videos previously, I've somewhat recently built a PC into a desk, built a PC under a desk, and a few other bits and pieces, so I think I'm slightly becoming known as someone who builds PCs into, around, or generally onto desks, so yeah, let's get started. So the aim of this video is to build a relatively simple, very cheap desk for general gaming use. Now, how you design this is completely up to you. The way that I went about doing it was based around a spare piece of wood that I had, just sort of big sheets with it was already in an L shape because I'd cut out a few pieces beforehand. So kind of going about it that way, and the tools that I have personally are circular saw, jigsaw, hand saws, files, and sanders. Those are all the cheaper brands and that sort of thing, so they weren't very expensive to pick up, so if you don't have access to them then you can do it that way. Also, if you're in the UK, somewhere like B&Q or plenty of I'm sure hardware stores in the US and all over the world will be able to do this for you, is when you pick up one of those sort of large sheets of wood, they normally have a cutting area where you can either pay them a very small amount, or even in B&Q they just do it for free, where you just tell them how big of sort of sections you want it cut into, and then they will cut it for you, and then you don't have to worry about cutting it yourself. So it's there's options and ways to go about it, but if you want to do it yourself, here's how I did it. So the first things first was getting everything measured and drawn on the pieces of wood. So first of all, I went and grabbed some 2x4 kind of style blocks from B&Q as well. So I got 4 of them. These are 2.4 meters long, so I actually didn't end up needing basically 2 of them, and I was intending on doing some more reinforcing, but just kind of how it turned out, I didn't need them all, so I do have some spares for some other projects and stuff like that. You're probably going to need at least 2 depending on the style you go with. If you go with a standard sort of 4-post design, then you should only need 2, but yeah, just bear that in mind when you are designing and then picking up your supplies. Once everything was measured out, it was then time to cut. Now the sheet that I had was a little bit too big for what I wanted, so I cut a section off the top and a section off of the back so that it would be a little bit smaller, a little bit more manageable, and sort of fits in the room well. And otherwise I then used the jigsaw to cut out the slight curve in the piece that I wanted, just so that it was a little bit nicer of an experience to actually sit at and use, rather than potentially sort of rubbing into and just generally not being as ergonomic as I'd like. Once I did that, I then went about cutting the posts for the legs and the supports and stuff like that. So I started off with a jigsaw, just as a really simple and easy way to do it, and just cut the legs to size. I was using 70cm legs because that's how high the other desk this desk is going to back up onto is, so it was a sort of a nice match, but feel free to test out, especially with what chair you're going to use, to see how high you want it and then build it to your specification that way. Once that was cut out, I then went about marking the size of the legs onto the main sort of desk top, and then that way I can work out where I want to put the screws through. I initially put 2 screws in each leg on a sort of diagonal pattern, so that in future, if I want to support it any further, I could more easily drill holes and add extra screws in a sort of cross-like pattern. So that's my personal recommendation. Depending on the size of screw and that sort of thing you have, you may want to vary this pattern as well, but that's how I went about mine. Once you've got all the legs attached to the top of your table, you're then going to want to add some supports, because depending on how you've done it and how you've attached the legs to the piece of wood itself, you may find that it's quite wobbly and you want to sort of support it a little bit better. So for me, I cut down a few of the sort of same pieces that I used for the legs, and then drilled pocket holes. So these are holes at a diagonal angle from the side of the wood, as I didn't want to drill all the way through the leg and potentially hit the screws that are already in from the top. So yeah, just sort of diagonally drilling into the wood and then putting screws in either side. I did a full piece on the rear of the desk, a full piece on the front sort of L piece of the desk, and then another piece sort of I guess 90 degrees to those 2 supports, so that I had a little bit more rigidity in both the sort of X and Y axis. So now that the desk is done, we need to make it a bit more of a gaming desk. First things first is the overclocker's desk mat. That is the smaller one, the more original style. Just because of the size of the desk, I don't need the newer, bigger one on there. But either way, I also threw on the AOC 34-inch 1440p ultra-wide, the 100Hz G-Sync one. It is a lovely monitor, and I'm really excited to be able to play with it. The system I'm using for this is the original RTX build guide PC with a few upgrades. So we've got an extra SSD in there, so we've got a 120GB M.2 SSD for the boot drive, with then a 240GB SSD for the sort of games drive, as the system is purely for gaming. And we're also throwing in a 1080 Ti there so that we can power that very nice ultra-wide monitor. From that, I'm also using the ASUS ROG Gladius 2 mouse for my gaming pleasures, and the Drevo Caliber keyboard, sort of, I think like 80% sort of keyboard. It's 10 keyless, plus the F key is built into the number row as well, so that's a really cool one. It uses micro USB and technically can use Bluetooth as well if you like, and full RGB, so that's a nice one to look at. And also using the SteelSeries Arctis 3 Bluetooth headset at the moment, although it's kind of nice that a lot of this can change out quite easily, so perhaps I'll be trying out some different keyboards and mice and headsets and see what I find the most enjoyable. But yeah, I'm really pleased how it turned out. The desk looked awesome and it fits very well in the room, and I love making stuff myself and actually having something that's custom made to fit what I want, so I'm really pleased with how it turned out. If you're interested in making your own gaming desk, then definitely give it a shot. It's very easy, it's actually pretty cheap in terms of materials. I think even if you bought the full sheet for the top surface of the desk and then just didn't use the rest of it, you're still only talking about maybe £10–15 for the top sheet, and then £10 or less for the leg supports and stuff like that. So you're really not talking that much money for what is a fully custom built desk. Sure, if you have to factor in tools, it might not be as cheap, but in terms of build quality, it's probably going to be better than a lot of the more flat pack thin furniture that you might get. So yeah. Also just really nice to have something custom made and something that you made yourself. So yeah, if you've got any questions, feel free to let me know in the comments down below, and if you have any suggestions for how I should use the tools better, because I probably actually scratch that, I definitely should, then feel free to let me know in the comments down below as well. If you're planning on making your own DIY desk, whether it's a PC hanging off the bottom or just a standard desk, or if you're actually building the PC into it like I did, then feel free to let me know in the comments down below how it goes. And also feel free to just send me pictures or anything on Twitter. I'd love to see how it turns out. And other than that, that is pretty much it. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video and found it useful and informative. If you did, feel free to subscribe and check out the Amazon and Overclockers UK affiliate links. If you want to pick up anything from tools to PC hardware, all of that is definitely a massive help. And of course, if you want to directly support me in making these videos and making desks and stuff, then feel free to check out the Patreon link in the description down below too. There will be some other videos over here for you, and obviously the subscribe button if you're new to the channel. And otherwise, thank you for watching, and we'll see you all in the next video.